Hey everybody, how are you doing this week? Are things starting to open back up? Are you guys seeing that happening? That's pretty wild, isn't it? It's exciting me. I'm glad to see that things are starting to open up, and we're actually going to have some people here at church. Let's see, this will be posted next Sunday, the 31st. So we're going to actually have children's ministry at church on that Sunday. So yeah, we are very excited. In fact, Miss Amy is like scrubbing every single thing she can get her hands on, like all the pencils and all the crayons. It's just, I can't believe it. I'm so excited. Anyway, focus, Charlie, focus. Okay, so let's see. We go back to the last time we talked, our last video. What were we talking about? Who is the lesson about? Does anybody remember?
The Italian Prince.
Mr. Marcus says the Italian Prince. Is that it? Not quite. No, it was a prophet. What was his name? Starts with an M.
The Italian.
No, not Matthew.
The Italian prophet.
The Italian prophet, exactly. Good job, Mr. Marcus. Yeah, it's Malachi, right? Okay, it's the last book of the Old Testament. All right? Now, last time we met, Malachi was teaching the Israelites some pretty hard lessons. Do you remember what he was teaching them? Yeah, he was basically fussing at them. God was using Malachi to fuss at the Israelites because they were not doing what they should have been doing, right? Okay. When God fusses at people, does he fuss all the time? Does he stay mad? Or does he say, you did this, and you did this, and you did this, and you did this, but there's hope? How does God work that? Yeah, he ends it by saying there's hope. And you know what? He used Malachi to say there's hope. And Malachi actually ends the Old Testament, the entire first part of the Bible before Jesus was born. Malachi actually ends it with two big promises. Okay? One of those big promises has already been fulfilled. The second one, we're still waiting on. Okay? And it's going to tie together something we did a few months ago. All right? So let's see what Malachi had to say. Okay? To begin with, who especially was Malachi fussing at? He was fussing at the priests because they were not giving a good sacrifice, right? You remember it had to have no broken bones, no blemishes, no scabs, no eye goo or any of that, snot running out of its nose or any of that stuff, right? Okay. They were giving God the sacrifices that had broken bones that it may have healed, had sores all over it, and God was telling the priests through Malachi, you can't do that. I deserve better, right? You remember that? In fact, God even said through Malachi, try giving that to your governor and see if he accepts it. You remember that? Okay. All right. But, as I said, Malachi ends with two big promises. Let's see. Let's hear the first one. It's Malachi chapter 3, verse 1. Okay? So if you want to look it up and read with me, it says, see, I'm going to send my messenger, and he will clear the way before me. Then the Lord you seek will suddenly come to his temple, the messenger of the covenant you desire. See, he is coming, says the Lord of hosts. All right. Who's talking here? Who is it? Who is the me? See, I'm going to send my messenger, and he will clear the way before me. Who is Who is me? Is it Malachi? No. Who is it? It's God. That's right. It's Jesus talking. Okay? Jesus is saying, I'm going to send my messenger, and he will clear the way before me. Jesus is saying, my messenger is going to clear my path. He's going to set up for me to come. Right? Does that make sense? Okay? That means Jesus is saying, I am coming. Jesus, is coming to earth. Right? Does that make sense? Okay. So that's the first promise. Jesus says, I'm going to send a messenger and I'm going to come right behind him. Oh, I want to say it, but I can't say it just yet because I don't want to get ahead of myself. So I'm going to wait. I bet every single one of you knows who that messenger is. Okay? I'm counting on it. All right, so hold that thought. All right? But Malachi makes a second promise. What's the second promise? That one gets a little more weird because he kind of pulls two things together. He pulls something we've already talked about, a person we've already talked about, to something that even we now have not experienced. Okay? So let's see what he says. It's chapter 4, verse 5. And he says, look, I'm going to send you Elijah the prophet before the great and awesome day of the Lord comes. Okay. Who was Elijah the prophet? You do too know. Come on now. Fire come down from heaven. Dump the water. Dump some more water. Dump some more water. Dump some more water. And then he prayed, and what happened? Fire came down, took the sacrifice. What else did it take? Took the pile of wood, and what else did it take? Took all the water. That same Elijah, Malachi, God told Malachi to tell us, I'm going to send him again. Now wait a minute, Mr. Charlie. You're telling me God's going to send him again? That's what he said. He said, I'm going to send you Elijah the prophet before the great and awesome day of the Lord comes. What is the great and awesome day of the Lord? What does that mean? Does that mean when Jesus comes and he's born in the manger and he grows up and dies on the cross? No. The great and awesome day of the Lord is the day we're looking for when Jesus comes in on the clouds in all of his glory, and he says, time out. Time out. It's done. Okay? That's the great and awesome day of the Lord. When Jesus comes back and he says, I am back, I am the King. Okay? Malachi is saying that he's going to send Elijah before that. That's pretty cool, huh? That prophet, now keep in mind, Elijah was something like 300 years before Malachi's talking. Okay? Now, here's the thing I want you to think about for a minute, okay? Did Elijah die? No. Elijah did not die. You remember the chariot of fire? And you remember they went to one place, and Elijah said, stay here. And Elisha, who was going to take over for him, said, no, I'm going to keep going with you. So they went to another place, and Elijah said, stay here, I'm going to go on. And Elisha said, no, I'm not going to do it, I'm going to go with you. You remember all that? And finally, Elisha said, I want the blessing that you have. And Elijah told him, if you see me depart, then you'll have the blessing. If you don't, then you won't have the blessing. You remember that? Okay? How did Elijah leave? He got on the chariot and he went to heaven on the chariot. He did not die. Okay? So now God is saying, I'm going to send you Elijah the prophet again. So what should we be looking for? We should be looking for Elijah the prophet, right? Yeah. Okay. All right. Now then. Oh, this is the most exciting part, because you know what? We get into the New Testament. Oh, this is so exciting. Oh, I can't. Oh, this is so exciting. This is so cool. All right. So who's the messenger? No, it's not Jesus. It's not God, because God is Jesus, right? It's not Mr. Marcus, no. He's trying. Okay? I'm going to flip over to Luke chapter 1, verses 13 through 17. Okay? Yeah, all the way over to Luke. We skipped a whole bunch, didn't we? You know what? It's like 400 years. When it actually happened, it was 400 years. Those were the last words that God gave to the Israelites before Jesus. Okay? There were no prophets. There were no visions. All that happened was lots and lots of history. Okay? Remember, we had the Persians. Esther was queen of the Persians for part of the time. And then the Greeks took over the whole kingdom and made it even bigger. And then after the Greeks, the Romans took over. And it was during the Roman control that Jesus was born. Okay? But before Jesus, what did Malachi say? I'm going to send who? A messenger, right? Who's that messenger? Let's see what he says. Okay? Looking at Luke chapter 1, verse 13. But the angel said to him, I'll come back to that. Do not be afraid, Zechariah, because your prayer has been heard. Your wife Elizabeth will bear you a son, and you will name him John. There will be joy and delight for you, and many will rejoice at his birth. For he will be great in the sight of the Lord, and will never drink wine or beer. He will be filled with the Holy Spirit while still in his mother's womb. He will turn many of the sons of Israel to the Lord their God, and he will go before him, he will go before God, Jesus, in the spirit and power of Elijah, to turn the hearts of the fathers to their children, and the disobedient to the understanding of the righteous, to make ready for the Lord a prepared people. Okay. What did Malachi say the messenger was going to do? Clear the way. Alright? What did the angel tell Zechariah that his son was going to do? To make ready for the Lord a prepared people. Clear the way. Who's the messenger? John the Baptist. Exactly. Well, you don't remember John the Baptist. You will. Trust me, you will. Okay? So here's what I want you to think. But let me fill in a little bit of background first. Who was Zechariah? Zechariah was a priest in the temple. Now keep in mind, you got Malachi, and then you got 400 years. Okay? For us, it's going to be a week. Actually, 2 weeks. But you got 400 years, because next week is a review lesson. But anyway, you got 400 years, and then you've got John the Baptist. Well, it just so happened that John the Baptist's dad was a priest in the temple. Okay? And it was John the Baptist's dad, whose name is Zechariah, it was his turn to go in and offer the sacrifice of incense. So he's in the temple, not the Holy of Holies, not the part where they're throwing the blood, okay? But he's in the part outside that, and he's offering the incense to God, and all of a sudden, he hears his name, Zechariah. And he's kind of, what? And the angel tells him all of this stuff that I read. Don't be afraid. Your wife is gonna bear you a son. You are going to name him John. Okay? Now that's a big deal in a little bit. Okay? It turns out that they don't want to name him John. But Zechariah, after the angel gets done talking to him, he's kind of like, how is this going to happen? He's kind of sort of making fun of the angel's message. And the angel says, all right, you will not speak until the baby is named. What? Yeah. Zechariah comes out of the temple, he cannot speak. Okay? And then they go on, the baby's born, then it's time to name the baby, and so they're asking his mom, Elizabeth, Zechariah's wife, what are you going to name the baby? And she says, his name is John. Because why? Because the angel said so, right? Okay? His mom says his name is John. And they said, no, you need to use a name from your family. There's nobody in your family named John. That's just silly, Elizabeth. And they said, let's ask Zechariah. He's the dad. So they bring Zechariah a piece of paper and a pencil and writes down, holds it up. He says, his name is John. That's the first words he's spoken in like a year. Okay? I mean, I got goosebumps. It's just so cool. Okay? All right. So, here's what I want you to remember from today. God made Abraham 3 promises. You remember that? Way back. You remember what they were? As many children as stars in the sky. I'm going to give them a country to live in. And one of those offspring, one of those children, I'm going to bless the world through. Okay? Now, we've got God giving us 2 more promises. But Mr. Charlie, he only gave them to the Israelites. Did he really only give them to the Israelites, or did he give them to everybody? Especially, I'm going to send Elijah. Right? Okay? So he gave us 2 promises. As I said, one of those promises has already come true, because John the Baptist cleared the way for Jesus, right? Oh, by the way, John the Baptist was Jesus' cousin. Pretty cool, huh? And the second one is, I'm going to send Elijah in preparation for when I come back in all of my glory. Okay? All right. If y'all have any questions, ask your parents. Parents, if you guys have questions, feel free to get in touch with us. We'll get you an answer. All right, y'all take it easy. Bye.